Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tech Talks with NASSCOM Insights. I'm Vandhana Babu, Senior Researcher Analyst, Engineering R&D at NASSCOM Insights. Joining me today are two very special guests from Indian EV and smart mobility space. On behalf of NASSCOM Insights, I would like to welcome Mr. K. Srirama Murthy from L&T Technology Services and Mr. Murali Sashidharan from Ather Energy. Mr. Srirama Murthy is the practice head for transportation in LTTS. Sriram comes with 27 years of industry experience, specialized in automotive and embedded systems, and worked in reputed research and engineering products and services organizations. He started his career as scientist at ISRO and was responsible for spacecraft electronics design and development. He successfully established delivery teams across different geographies in the areas of electrification, AD/ADAS, connected car, e-cockpit, e-cockpit, steering and braking, and body and security systems. Sriram holds a bachelor's degree in electronics and communications engineering and has published technical papers in SAE International in the areas of automotive networks and remote vehicle data access methods. Our second panelist, Mr. Murali Sashidharan, is the head of public relations and government relations at Ather Energy. Murali is a seasoned corporate communications professional who leads the public relations and government relations functions at Ather Energy. He has over 20 years of experience in goal-oriented communication strategies, focused on driving engagement with stakeholders and establishing strong brand recall across audiences. Throughout his career, he has worked with various B2B and B2C technology and consumer brands, covering both corporate and business communication imperatives. Murali has previously worked for Ola, Sony Pictures Network India, Ad Public Relations, MSL 2020, Royal Sundaram, and 6 Degrees Public Relations. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for joining. Thank you so very much. How in the post-pandemic world, we have seen an increased adoption of electric vehicles. So, Sriram, what do you think is the reason for this growth? Many companies have seen spectacular growth, and within your company as well, so many new initiatives have been undertaken. So, what do you think are the reasons?
Yeah, I think let me put it this way. If I look at the statistics of the EVs, right, that is sold in India in the first half of this year, and the survey states around 300% increase compared to last year, which says that definitely more consumers are trying to have EVs as part of their transportation, right? And the second one is worldwide. If you look at today, the number of passenger cars sold, if you look at EVs alone, it is 7 to 8%. Whereas in India, we are coming around 1.2% or so. But looking at the trends, if you see, definitely, there is an awareness that is happening across. Everyone knows, the green gas emissions that are definitely affecting the environment. And
Yes.
also the fuel prices are rising havoc. If you see 200%, 300%. And also there are many government regulations that are coming in. And all these factors are helping for the EVs growth, not necessarily in India, across the world. However, the charging infrastructure, which is definitely a kind of very much needed for EVs to to get into the market. There are also advancements. There are many players coming in, and it is becoming more affordable, available on the highways and city transport roads. And the third one is whatever EVs are getting launched, they are coming out with niche technologies. For example, if I buy a EV today, I can connect my mobile phone and see what is the charging, how do I unlock, and many features, right? That's where consumers are getting attracted to. That's where I can see these are all 3, 4 reasons, primary reasons where the EV adoptions are getting increased worldwide, even in India. I can say one thing.
Yeah, thanks, Sriram, for that. And Murali, as an OEM, Ather has seen spectacular growth during the pandemic. So, why do you think that, there has been an increased adoption of electric vehicles, specifically post-pandemic?
I think this is a very exciting phase right now in the EV industry. We have seen demand increase by about 7x to 8x
Wow.
over the last 12 months, and many reasons for this. Fuel prices, obviously, one of them. But I think the experience that EV companies are offering now, is what is drawing people in as well. It is not just a scooter with an acceleration and brake, and it's a lot more. And
Yes.
uh, I think the younger generation and even the older generation, this is what they want. They want that extra experience, and this is what the EV companies are bringing. And the demand is going up. It continues to go up, and I think it's a very exciting phase in the automobile industry as a whole right now. So.
Yeah, wonderful, wonderful. So, Sriram, I want to shift the focus on you again. So in LTTS, what initiatives are you taking, to ensure that there is a higher adoption of EVs, whether it is technology wise or through offering building platforms or offering various services? What initiatives are you taking in LTTS?
Uh, Let me give you some background. I think,
Mhm.
L&T Technology Services is a pure
Yeah,
play engineering
yeah,
services company. And a year and a half back, we have strategized to invest on EACV, what we call
yes,
electric
yes.
autonomous and connected vehicles. That is the theme where we've been doing continuous investments today. And right, like we have been working in different domains, not only just automotive side. We have connectivity and whatever 5G today people are talking about. And that's where we have the domain experience to bring in
Yes.
to give the consumer experience, what Murali is talking about really, right?
Yeah.
And also we work on the multi-level vertical experience. So do you mean to say that suppose if you want to include navigational maps into the
Mhm.
EVs, right? We work with map providers and to bring in that experience into the EVs. And also
Yeah.
we have invested on EV testing lab in our Manata office in Bangalore, and we are doing it in Mysore and across the world, where we have set up the dyne, where the two-wheeler and four-wheeler, any of the motors can be tested, for the performance, the durability and reliability, right? And also
Wow.
we build the platform called eVolts, which is all the components that are required, right, from the charger, the inverter, the motor, and also the battery pack, the battery
Mhm.
management system. Everything is done in-house. It
Wow.
is not only just to not sell like a product, but to build the capability among the engineers, to bring the
Yes.
awareness, how things will work for an EV. The second
Mhm.
one is these are also a reference designs for the customers. For example, if a customer comes to us and asks
Mhm.
for, hey, I want to design an inverter for 48 kilowatt,
Mhm.
then we will use this reference design as a kind of a quick starting
Right.
the project so that we can
Mhm.
reduce the development time. Right. And
Mhm.
we have made many reference designs in this area.
Yeah.
One is to call it as one of the onboard charger, which works on dual active bridge technology and integrated inverter and DC-DC converter, and
Mhm.
e-axle, which is not only just motor and also bringing the transmission together. And
Mhm.
also we build the complete thermal management aspects. For example, if you
Mhm.
see some of the two-wheelers, you heard in the market, right? They're catching
Yes.
fire and other things. We have built complete digital twin model of a two-wheeler and
Mhm.
complete thermal management, we are taking care today. That way we
Yeah.
build all these solutions so that we can provide the kind of niche expertise to the customers to bring their production to the market quicker and safer,
Mhm.
right? We
Mhm.
also work on an area called functional safety, which comply to ASIL level D, which is most safety critical. That's where we can bring in the experience as well.
Got it. Got it. Fair enough. So, Murali, I want to ask you now is that, there are various modes like battery swapping and various business models also like battery as a service, which have been introduced in the ecosystem. And, the government has also introduced policies and in some cases draft policies for the same. So, how effective do you think these are in expanding and encouraging increased adoption and, encouraging people to go for electric vehicles?
No, I think it's definitely a great step. I think what's most heartening is the government's role here. The government is really taking an interest, and they're really putting the front foot forward to ensure that EVs grow in India. And you have all these different services that they're pushing as well. They're encouraging um, more companies to come in, more people to look at innovative solutions. And
Mhm.
so battery swapping, battery as a service, everything is great. I think for us, we looked at the battery swapping part. It didn't work with what we wanted to do. But from a commercial vehicle point of view, battery swapping is a great option, and I just see it continue to grow from now because of the
Mhm.
steps the government is taking as well, the encouragement they're giving, and the different direction companies are trying to take, and different solutions, different products that they're trying to come out with. So uh,
Yes.
I think it does nothing but just help grow the EV ecosystem in the country. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. Sriram, your thoughts on the same about battery swapping and other business models like battery as a service?
I think definitely these two are helping like more EV adoptions in the
Mm-hmm.
market definitely, and only we need to aware that it won't work for passenger car. It's not so easy, right?
Mm.
I mean, still it is a long way, and there are a
Yeah.
lot of safety critical issues
Yes.
when we go for that kind of mechanism. But for the two-wheeler segment, definitely I agree. I think this is going to help us for more adoptions, more two-wheeler adoptions in the market.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So again, this is a question for both of you. So we do have inadequate, so to say, charging infrastructure, which is hampering the growth of EV adoption in the country. So how can industry as a whole take initiatives to overcome this challenge? So Sriram, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think the especially in the city environment, what is
Yes.
happening is the space, with the government initiative, maybe now we are seeing many of the petrol outlets, right? And they are trying to put the charging stations. And the other part is the standardization. For
Yeah.
example, maybe if I am releasing my vehicle into the market, maybe the competition is releasing, is it compatible, right?
Yeah.
And there could be the standard, the connectors, the way the charging guns that we are going to use. Definitely there needs to be a
Yeah.
standardization. And also the other one is the we are hearing about fast
Yeah.
charging, right?
Yes.
And it is very important because if it is taking too much of time, it will lose its it is again it will be a problem for the EV adoption, right? We need
Mhm.
fast charging stations. We need to
Yes.
standardize the way the charging happens, and also the government subsidies who set up these charging stations, and also we need to ensure 24/7 power for these charging
Yeah.
stations so that the vehicles can get charged quickly. If we take care of these things, I think we can definitely look at charging infrastructure is adequate. I think it will help more EV adoptions.
Wonderful, wonderful. And Murali, your thoughts on charging infrastructure and what initiatives can we take?
So from a two-wheeler point of view, what we have seen is most of the charging is actually done at home or your office.
Mm.
Yeah, and the public charging points is used more of a, if I run out of charge, I go there and do it. But we are seeing more than
Yeah.
80% actually of charges being done at home or your residence or apartments or offices or wherever it is right now.
Yeah.
Now, with regard to public charging, we are again seeing more and more public charging points come up. But I think it would help if the governments of different state governments allot points, because space is the biggest issue, right? You can
Mm.
have charging points outside the city, but on main streets, how do you get charging points over there? that is where we need the government's help with it. And actually in Karnataka, we've signed up with the government and they said they will give us these key crucial points in the city so that people can charge it as well. Yeah.
Yes.
Range anxiety obviously is one of the biggest factors when it comes to EVs. That's what everybody is worried about. And again, I'm speaking from a two-wheeler, three-wheeler point, not four-wheeler. But most of your travel for a two-wheeler is in a city. So ideally, you're not going to travel more than 100 to 120 kilometers in a day. I'm not about most cases. Yes, you will have the other cases who do a little more. So I think with this 100 and 120 kilometers, and we've seen less actually, we've seen an average of 75 to 80 kilometers that people travel in a day. But I think for this 100 or 120, right now, all the companies have that charging infrastructure in place for that, or the charging range that they have for that. But again, the technology is just coming up so fast, and Mr. Murthy will definitely add to that because it's companies like his also where the technology is improving. There are more charging points coming up. Everybody wants fast charging. Fast charging will just continue to improve. It's how your mobile chargers used to be about 20 years ago. And now if you look at a charger, how fast it is, you can charge your phone. It's the same way that this technology will move. So.
Yeah. Got it. So continuing with you, Murali, how are you leveraging technologies, in your projects and initiatives within Ather?
So I think as a company, the most important thing for us and the focus for us is R&D and product development. And I think that's the good thing about the founders, where their focus is on R&D. Many people actually looked at us and said, "You guys were the first movers in this space, but you're taking so long to do things." Yeah, but and now with all these fires coming up, you actually see why we took so long. Yeah, the amount of tests that we do, the amount of effort that goes into engineering, the amount of time spent on validation. I think this is something we put a lot of effort into, and for every product, for all the battery cells, we spend a lot of time doing it, and I think that's where our tech comes out. So I would like to say that we are more of a product company who constantly works on developing the product. Even recently, we announced a new generation of our platform, and it was not something that is a whole new thing, but it was just honing and developing the parts of it so that we refine the product to make it a better product, better user experience, better riding, better handling. So I would say that's where our technology is. The other part of the tech obviously comes in experience. And right now, I don't think it's a must right now. It's a necessity right now. Earlier, it was not a necessity. But now people want they want a screen, they want maps, they want that experience. And all cars and scooters are coming out with it right now. So as I said earlier, we just continue to develop and become better.
Wonderful. And Sriram, same question for you. How are you leveraging technology? So many initiatives going on, so many projects going on at LTTS. How are you leveraging technology here?
Yeah, I think to give a perspective, right? I mean, definitely whatever we do, including the hardware or software that is required for EVs, always it is going to be safety critical. Like we follow the highest standard, that is in automotive terminology, we call it as SL levels. It is SLD, what we use for all the software development and hardware development today. And the second one important is we directly closely work with semicon vendors. For example, like whatever they bring in chipsets into the market, we build the reference designs. For example, we are working with one of the European semicon vendor where we are developing a stackable outboard charger. Right, it is each charger stack is around 50 kilowatt. If you stack it, it will go up to 300 kilowatt. That kind of designs we are building for them. And for one of the OEMs, again from US, we are doing complete EV components like BMS, battery management system. We're also working on the latest wireless BMS, right? Where Bluetooth, BLE, what the communication media we are using to get the cell monitoring, state of charge, state of health of each cell of the battery, right? And when it comes to the investments wise, the technology wise, as I mentioned, We are invested in a Moderator test lab, which can test even the four-wheelers and the two-wheelers. And also we are working with reputed universities, not only in India, but outside India. Like, we have a close relationship with the Coventry University, where we are investing on latest battery cell chemistry, like, which is suitable for EV and also thermal management, as I mentioned, also on the digital twin. That way, the latest technologies we are bringing in, while working on the EVs and on the connectivity space, today we are working on even on the 5G, right? Where the connectivity, you can definitely, today everyone is talking about software-defined vehicle, where I can sit at my office and download new software into the two-wheelers and four-wheelers, right? I need not take it to a service station, to fix some of the things. If it is a software new release, I want to see a new moped, my dashboard need to be changed. I can just change the software over the air, the way we are updating software on the mobile phones. We have these kind of frameworks already developed, and we are working on these areas for last at least 5-6 years.
Wonderful, wonderful. And continuing with you, you've talked about technology and so many initiatives, and you've talked about the charging infrastructure as well. So, Sriram, I want to ask that, what are some of the challenges that you are facing, in helping scaling up the adoption and, encouraging the adoption of electric vehicles? So, this could be from the overall ecosystem standpoint or supply chain, as we have seen because of the semiconductor crisis as well. Could be pricing or technology as well. What are your thoughts on the challenges that you're facing as a company?
Sure. I think I will just put it in 3 areas. The first one is while we are improving on the charging infra, still it is a bottleneck today. Maybe for two-wheelers, as Murali told, may not be that critical because the vehicle, generally two-wheelers run within the city. But when you go to highways, range anxiety is a major issue. Suppose in the midnight, if my charge is not there and there is no nearby charging station, what you'll do, right? Definitely, we need to work more on charging infrastructure side to build the whatever infrastructure needed for the fast charging. And the second important thing is cost of EVs. Though, there are many subsidies that are coming in, but it is still expensive today because the battery technology, whatever is available, and the cost of EVs need to be looked at. This is the second one. And the third one is maybe it is easy to adapt, at least in the cities, right? The public transport, right? Suppose you see in Bangalore today, many of the the buses, they've already introduced electric buses, right?
Yes.
And this is where the again why it is delayed. If you look at again the cost, right? And the cost versus the returns on the investments, that is where the governments are looking at whether to go for EV, and whether I take the leasing of the buses or I'll buy the buses. There are a lot of deliberations that are going on. Probably I think these 2-3 areas, and governments are helping with subsidies, but these are all still some of the bottlenecks for the challenges, I can say.
Got it, got it. And Murali, same question for you. Challenges you are facing for scaling up the adoption of EVs.
So as getting back to the challenges we're facing, while semiconductor is obviously a challenge that we've had, I think it's the entire supply chain that we've also had a challenge with. Because if you look at our sales back in 2020, in October, for example, we were selling 500 scooters a month. Now, fast forward to October of 2021, and we are selling 3,500 scooters a month. So that's a 7x jump. Okay, and obviously now there are more players, there are more demands. So the supply chain has also had to grow with the demands that have been there. And so what we have done is we've started working closely with our partners to ensure that we bring them up to the levels that we have right now. So it's not just a chip challenge, but it's also the other parts as well that we've had to help them ramp up in, because of the fantastic demand that the industry has seen. So obviously that has been a big challenge, but we have seen already things over the last few months improving. We are seeing, I mean, it's a lot better right now, and I think in the next 3-4 months this should be completely fixed as well. So,
Wow.
so that's
Wonderful, wonderful. Yes.
so I think those are one of the biggest challenges. I think Srirama had also spoken about charging. So the chargers also, obviously, with the chip problem, even those chargers get affected. And obviously, for companies, the focus is on the product first, and then the chargers also. So, but things are improving now. So I think we'll get to see a lot more. From a charging point of view, also, I feel it's important that at least the governments, at least make it mandatory, at least in RWAs, your apartment associations, to ensure charging points are there. Because a lot of people are scared. I mean, they're not scared, but it's a new area, so they're not too sure whether to allow it or not. And the government, as well, as we mentioned, putting out points in public places where people can charge their vehicles. And the last thing I would say is focus on R&D again, where the challenge has been that many companies are trying to do things very fast, and this has resulted in some of the fires that you have seen as well. So I think it's about taking their time and getting the product right, even if it takes a little while. So.
Got it, got it. So yes, you have talked about the challenges and a little bit of the recommendations as well. So, you want to continue building on that, Murali. What recommendations do you want towards the government, for the industry players, the tech integrators and startups as well, the tech startups who are a part of this ecosystem now, who are building up various platforms as well. So, what recommendations do you have? Yeah.
So I said testing and validation is important. This is a new industry for India. So in Western countries, the testing is a lot more rigorous. I think that is something we can look at as well. I think we've already got good testing processes in place. I think that has to be improved on. And I think agencies like ARAI are continuing to do that. So I think it's important to work with OEMs to understand what all has to go in. Obviously, from an importing part, for us, apart from the cells that we import, everything else is made in India. And we make it for the different conditions. Indian conditions are different to any other country. So I think that's another step that also has to be done, where when you're developing a product, it's developed for our market. And so again, comes back to the validation part, the testing part, and ensuring that the products are up to date. So. And I'd added the points earlier on supply chain and charging. So this was the only extra point that I wanted to recommend for the government. So.
Got it, got it. And Sriram, what are your recommendations? This could be for the industry players, the government, the overall ecosystem, supply, everybody present across the value chain, tech integrators and startups as well. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think government has brought in different initiatives already. I think Auto PLI, we are hearing production linked incentives, and FAME too, right? And also there is a PLI scheme for ACC batteries, advanced chemistry cell, right? Already there are news where many companies are trying to set up battery plants, battery manufacturing, right?
Yes.
And definitely we need to do some kind of we need to have some research on battery chemistry side, which we should be indigenously develop these kind of capabilities and whatever is required, so that not to depend on the countries we have seen whatever kind of disruptions earlier. And also, there are some alternative propulsion systems which are becoming popular, especially on the heavy vehicle side, fuel cells, right? Which is coming as hydrogen fuel cells, right? And maybe that is also another area government should give some kind of incentives to do research in this area. Definitely, I agree with Murali on the supply chain side, the ecosystem, the dependency on other countries we should reduce as much as possible, right? Government should give whatever incentives required. And also I suggest government to make it mandatory of EVs in public transport within cities, right? And rather than this is very important step, because this will really help, like, the infrastructure, whatever is required, and within cities, right? It will reduce even the pollution levels and so on and so forth. We are seeing in Delhi, like, how things are happening every winter, right? And the other point I have is, I think we discussed about charging infrastructure. I think definitely the kind of place that is required, and the power 24/7 power availability for this charging infrastructure. And the important thing is, there is also second thing that is happening is battery second life. Once we use these batteries in EVs for maybe 5 years, 10 years, how are we going to dispose these batteries? There are a lot of chemicals inside, and there is also, like, some kind of mechanism government has to bring in some research. This is the way safely you can dispose, or, like, you can use it for industrial applications, right? For other areas, right? And probably the other one is, like, everyone is talking about EVs, and, like, I agree with Murali, testing and validation and safety is utmost important, and we need to set up enough infrastructure to test, and government certification bodies like ARAI to bring in these norms strictly before any vehicles that gets into the market. I think if we do these 5-6 items, I think I think the adoption will increase more.
Wow, wonderful, wonderful. So any last points from both of you, Sriram and Murali? Anything else that you want to share?
Yeah, from my side, I'll say EVs are the way going forward. There is no second thought in it. And if we work on 2-3 points, like, one is the infrastructure side and the range. If we reduce the range anxiety, and we are there,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
I think there is no second thought on this.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, Murali, your thoughts?
I think it's just a fantastic time actually right now. The government is supporting, consumers are supporting, companies are for it. So I just see the industry growing on, and it's a good time to be in the EV industry right now. So.
Wonderful, wonderful. So thank you. Thanks so much, Sriram and Murali, for joining us today. And that's it from this edition of Tech Talks. So stay tuned for more insightful discussions happening in the Indian tech industry with NASSCOM Insights YouTube channel. So please do like, share, and subscribe. And so till then, it's goodbye from all of us here at NASSCOM Insights. And thank you so very much, Sriram and Murali, for joining today. I wish we could continue this conversation more and we could have had more technical discussions as well. But yes, this was a very, very insightful, and very, very enriching discussion for all of us. So thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.